The Art Center inspires creativity and contributes to
community well-being
through equitable access to
and engagement with visual arts.
We collaborate to offer exhibitions,
learning opportunities, artist development,
and cultural events centered on
art, artists, and art enthusiasts in the greater Corvallis area.
Okay. Hi, Jill.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Let's see. Let's start. Why don't you kind of introduce yourself and we can go from there. I guess I can introduce myself too, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Jill Myer. I am an artist living on the Oregon coast, where it seems to be raining more than usual. So I work with encaustic wax and watercolor pigment most frequently. And I am a member of a co-op gallery here on the coast called For Artsake Gallery. And so my encaustic paintings and my watercolor paintings are available in that gallery. But on the side, I do tend to do some collage and work with some inks and some lettering and some digital art and all those other fun things too. But that's just kind of my artist overview, if you will.
Great. I'm looking forward to seeing your pieces in the show coming up in just a couple weeks.
Yes.
Well, my name is Claire Elam. I'm the Artist Accelerator Program Director, as you know. The Accelerator is really a program for professional development for artists. You went through kind of the main part of the program. We have a few different spokes these days, but in particular, the residency is still our main hub of it all. We're in our 5th year. We're wrapping up in 2 or 3 days, the 5th cohort, which is pretty insane. And I'm excited to be able to look back at kind of the last 5 years of residence through the evolution of practice show, and then also see some new, fresh resident work in the Kern Woodman galleries during the same time.
Yeah, that'll be super exciting.
And we also have the show in Footwise too. So yes. Which I believe is where you are.
Mm-hmm. It will be.
Great. Let's see. So you told me a little bit about your work. Why don't you tell me a little bit about kind of your inspiration, where you draw kind of your practice from, anything like that?
Absolutely. I've always, I guess in my younger years as an artist, I struggled with subject matter quite a bit. In art school, I feel like the message you got, or at least the message I received, was very much like anything you put on the wall is a statement and you have to make this big, grandiose statement with every piece of art. And that was so intimidating to me that I really didn't paint for a long time after art school. But then the more I looked around and the more I just found myself painting kind of in my quiet times just for myself, it was animals and trees and leaves and nature. And the more I looked around, like historically and in museums, I realized that landscapes and fruit and trees is kind of what people have always painted because it's our world. And so I got more comfortable with just painting what I want to paint. And so right before I joined the residency, it was right as COVID was enveloping our lives. And so I was doing a lot of pet portraits for a lot of different people because that was what made me some money in the moment. And I loved all the little expressions in the eyes and all the pets and how much people loved the pets. They would send me photos upon photos of their animals. And so I would choose the ones that I liked with the expressions. And so I do love painting animals and mostly their eyes. But these days, the work that is available in the gallery, the work that I do most, started as landscape. And I really thought that I was painting the ocean. Like I was like, oh, the ocean is my inspiration. I walk my dog on the beach every day. But the more and more I look at my work, I realize I'm painting the sky and the clouds, which are kind of mimicking the waves and the movement of the ocean. But I've really kind of morphed into being this sky painter. Like I love the clouds and the shapes and the colors, and just every day they're different. And it fascinates me and challenges me, especially in watercolor. It might go beyond challenging and just be more of a terrifying because there's so much depth there. There's so much movement, and it's very difficult to capture in watercolor. But I do love that challenge, and I have been trying to lean into that a little bit more. And but with the wax, it's not easy by any stretch, but it's fun. It's fun to capture the clouds and that movement in the wax, and the way that the wax colors mix and kind of marble and they flow across the board. Like, it's a lot of fun. So I've kind of become a sky/cloud painter with a little bit of ocean on the bottom for a little effect,
That horizon line, right?
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like you have found a lot of your practice and your inspiration through kind of joy and the things that you surround yourself with: animals, nature, especially the ocean, living on the coast here in Oregon. Since you'll be exhibiting work in the Evolution of Practice through our Footwise window display or gallery, will you talk a little bit about what the idea of an evolving practice means to you and moving from inspiration and into practice?
Yeah, I feel like the evolution of my work has really come from, because when I joined the residency, I had always, since I was in college, 20 somewhat plus years ago, I had always wanted to work in encaustic wax. It was just this cool kind of unattainable thing that I'd always been curious about, but I never really had the space or the time, I guess mainly the space to really investigate it until we moved here to Oregon. The house that we found had a garage with a built-in workbench and cross ventilation. And that was just like the stars aligned. I could finally work in encaustic wax. And so when I started, it was very largely self-taught, a lot of YouTube videos. And my work didn't necessarily change. My process didn't necessarily evolve until I started investing in different tools. And the different tools allowed me to do different things with the wax. And so that's kind of where my evolution came from, was the tools. And then finding, I guess I want to call them unlikely sources of education, but there are people I sought out, people who have worked in encaustic for years that I follow on Instagram or YouTube. And I think my evolution comes from being willing to invest the time to go to the bottom of somebody's Instagram account and just look at every hours on the couch and Instagram and going to the bottom of that person's account. And those people have taught me so much just in their captions and a video snippet here and a video snippet there. Like, there's one artist who I love her work, and I'm like, how did you do that? And so one day I just spent hours on her account, and she had one photo, with a little wax crayon. And I was like, that's it. I ran out and bought wax crayons because I was like, that's how you're getting that specific detail. And so I think the evolution of my practice has come from trading in a heat gun for a blowtorch and trading in just tools that weren't really doing the job and finding the tool that would do the job. I use a lot of tools from the ceramics aisle in the art store, like the tools that ceramics artists use for carving and creating details in their work, I use for creating texture in my work. So yeah, just, I guess, a continuing education and really, in a most creepy way possible, deep diving to find that education, finding that education under any circumstances, and then using it and making it my own and adding it to my process to then move forward. And I see the changes every time. So that's kind of cool.
Great.
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. I'm curious how you see your practice evolving from here in 3, 5, 10 years. How do you think you'll be practicing art?
I don't know, but I know it will evolve. The very cool part about being a member of the Co-op Gallery is, and again, I don't mean this to be negative in any way, shape, or form, but I am forced to make so much work especially during tourist season. That little gallery moves some art through it. And I am letting down my other members if my walls are vacant or blank or there's not any work there. And so I produce a lot of work. And because I produce so much, I feel like my evolution has been a lot faster than if I was just doing things on my own and just experimenting on the weekends or here and there. I am in my studio multiple times a week for hours on end. So there's that kind of high speed part of my process. And I hope that that will continue to grow and move as the years go on. Dump truck going by, my apologies. But the other part of the growth in my process, because I work in a gallery, that caters mainly to tourists, I work very small. I work in small little pieces that can be tucked into a suitcase or, tucked into the back of somebody's car. And the most exciting part for me about the Evolution of Practice show and being at Footwise is I'm working really big for the first time ever. And it's exciting / terrifying. And what I found is it's not that much different, but it's the equivalent of me working like one piece for Footwise is going to be the equivalent of doing like 6 small long pieces that I'm just putting together in one canvas. So I'm hoping in the next 3 to 5 years, I get more opportunities or I seek out more opportunities to work big again and more. And it's allowed me to add different details that I wouldn't add if I'm working small. It's allowing those details that would be really small on a small piece to be almost the focal piece of the large piece. So there's been a lot of neat changes that are kind of the same, but a little bit different too. So I don't know. I hope I get more of that.
I hope so too. Sounds like you're having a lot of fun diving into some new sizes, and then that repetitiveness of needing to keep your gallery wall stocked. That really adds to those 10,000 hours to master a technique, right? It seems intimidating until you're having to do it, and if it's flowing, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. To wrap up, why I think you've talked a little bit about this with your use of tools to develop the physical craft of making. But why don't you talk a little bit about the importance of craft or the importance of concept in your work, and how those might butt up against each other, or are you one or the other, do you think?
Let's see, craft versus concept. Growing up, my mother she's everything. She's an oil painter, but she's also a craftsman. She quilts and knits and sews and bakes, and she did all the things. And so I grew up in this household mainly of craftspeople. Like my dad is very handy with hammers and nails, and he was always building things. And so the idea, I guess to me, the idea that craft and art are separate has never really been present. Like I understand what people talk about when they're talking about fine art versus a craft. Like I get that. But at the same time, a craftsman is an artist. I think the only difference to me is the amount of love and time and attention you give to your project, whether it's a craft versus an art. And so for me, using the different tools, using things that would potentially be a craftsman's tool for my art, that doesn't faze me in any way, shape, or form. All paintbrushes, all everything are tools to make the art. I feel like I might be missing the point of the question, to be perfectly frank, as I'm saying.
That's all right. I think it's a complicated question, really. I guess, would you say that the overall concept of your work, if you're painting a skyscape,
Mm-hmm.
The concepts behind that, do you think that takes more importance over it? Or do you think the material, technique, and craft of it is the more important part?
I see.
For your work, not work overall.
I don't know that I've ever truly considered that. concept. I think for me, replicating that sky, replicating the clouds, capturing them in some way, that's kind of what I'm always trying to do. I'm trying to capture something in all of its beauty that is a moving target. You know, clouds move, especially on the coast, they move so fast. I'm always taking video and 100 different pictures, trying to capture the right nuance of that specific cloud. And then I'm trying to put that down on my cradle board with wax. And so for me, it is the concept of the piece, or the concept of the subject matter, trying to capture it, trying to reflect it out back into the world, so everyone gets to see what I get to see when I'm walking the dog in the sideways rain on the beach, because it really is when the beach is the prettiest, but it's also when nobody's there. And so I really am trying to capture it and collect it like a butterfly in a net almost, and keep it. And whatever tools I have to do to make that happen, I will use. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jill. I enjoyed our conversation. It's great to hear from you. And I look forward to seeing your work and the rest of Corvallis as well as they pass through downtown.
I know. I'm very excited to A, work big, and B, have my work in such a public spot. It'll be an interesting new thing for me. So
yeah, I remember when you were a resident, and the biggest work that you were making during the residency was like this. Again, it was a huge step in size for you in encaustics, and now you're getting even bigger. It's great to hear, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So, and it's been a lot of fun. I've got 3 very large panels, and I was done with one of the 3 panels. And then last night I scraped half of it off. So yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. The cloud wasn't right, so it had to go.
It had to go.
It had to go.
Well,
I've gotten much more comfortable with scraping things these days. It's not the end of the world. You just scrape it and go.
And create a new color, right?
Exactly. So,
well, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Claire. I appreciate your time. Take care.
Thank you for listening to TAC Makes. This is a new creative project at the Arts Center, and I hope you enjoy our learning curve as much as we do. You can find more episodes on YouTube and Spotify, and on our website, theartscenter.net. That's arts with an S.